AI-powered RevOps, where the learning never stops. Hosted by Sandy Robinson, she's leveling up your ops. From data to deals, she reveals how AI really pops. Real talk, real playbooks, no fluff, just jaw drop. So plug in, turn it up, let the insights flow. You're tuned to AI-powered RevOps. Now let's start the show.
All right. Hey everyone, Sandy Robinson here. I'm your host of AI-powered RevOps. Today I have Corey Schwitz. Corey is the CEO and founder of Skydog Ops. The Skydog team works with venture and private equity-based companies to build AI-native CRM and GTM systems. And he's also the founder of SnapBrick, a platform that helps companies connect and enrich their Salesforce data and leading AI platforms, including Claude and OpenAI. Today, we're digging into what it really takes to move AI hype to operational execution across RevOps, CRM, and GTM. This episode is for every RevOps leader trying to turn AI experiments into actual operating leverage. Okay, Corey, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Sandy, thanks for having me. And obviously you gave a great introduction here on Skydog. I've run the company for over 6 years now, and we are a team of over 20 amazing people across the US. Proud to say we're the only firm that is in G2's top 10 in both Salesforce and HubSpot, which really kind of emblematic of how we think of just being very platform agnostic. And that being platform agnostic has now led to our approach and how we implement and incorporate AI into the systems we build. And yeah, I know you mentioned we work with venture and PE-backed companies, so mostly B2B companies that have collectively raised in the billions from name brand VCs like Founders Fund, Andreessen Horowitz, Sequoia, Y Combinator, companies that really run the gamut from robotics to health tech to clean energy. We also work with private capital firms, so anywhere from smaller VC and PE firms to some of the biggest alternative asset managers in the world. So with those folks, we help them build out and customize their CRM for everything from capital raising and investor relations to deal sourcing. So yeah, obviously, topic of your podcast is AI and how it's impacting RevOps. And it's completely changed everything that we do and our focus, everything from creating AI-powered outreach motions to proactive lead and deal signals, and overall just turning what is usually like very stale data in a CRM into a proactive system of action. So really excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, I've been following you on LinkedIn, and that's how we got connected. So you're definitely putting a lot of great information out there into the RevOps community. I think your posts are very valuable, the content that you're sharing. So I'm excited to have you here today and get some insights from you to share with the audience. So before we dive into all things AI and RevOps, I have a quick question for you. Tell me one personal interest or fun fact your work friends just maybe wouldn't know about you.
Well, if you work with me long enough, you'll know this, but I actually started my career on the business side of Broadway theater here in New York. So I first worked at an advertising agency called Spotco with some amazing people. Their clients are Broadway shows and producers, and they help them put on the advertising and marketing campaigns to help those shows sell tickets. So that work led to my first startup, an unsuccessful startup that was a platform online to help those theater producers find investors for their shows. So ultimately, that kind of actually kicked off my career and interest in tech and startups. Worked at a couple small VC firms, ran a sales team at a venture-backed startup. That eventually opened my eyes to these underlying revenue systems that, for most companies, is a total mess. And from that, Skydog was born.
That's really interesting. I love. Do you still go to Broadway shows or off Broadway shows at all?
When we could find the time, for sure. And for the folks that probably know me well, they know like what my all-time favorite Les Mis, and I often use Jean Valjean as a comparison for his energy and action, drawing a comparison between lazy sales reps who hate to update their pipeline. But yeah, probably still see a few shows a year.
It kind of comes through, in what you do. I love it. So let's dive in here. So, when you think about anybody who's looking at transforming their data, their CRM, and obviously things are messy out there in the world, what problem are you typically solving for right now when it comes to go to market and RevOps teams?
Yeah. Well, obviously it's very, very company dependent there. But as you noted from the get-go, the data's a mess. People don't like their CRM. I have a good friend, uh, Dave Levy, who runs a company, Aircover, and he said the line to me once: "People hate your CRM because that's where you do work." Um, and there's a lot that can be done. I think companies know that, with taking your existing Salesforce data or whatever systems it lives in, and making it transforming it from being stale to actually proactively enriching it with AI. But what companies are typically starting with, because their CRM is such a pain point, is how do I make it easier for my team to update the system, and how do I update the system automatically? So I'll say, while we are doing a lot with everything, I kind of put things in two buckets: from efficiency and automation of your existing team to grabbing data insights. That efficiency and automation bucket is definitely a starting place, because there's a frustration from users of how annoying it is to update your CRM, and now you can do that via natural language. And
Hmm.
there's a corresponding frustration with managers and executives that the data is insufficient. So that tends to be the first place we start: is how can you automate data entry and make it easier without people having to click a million buttons.
Yeah, I have some tools that I'm shifting, and I won't get into any names, but the it was really impactful when some of these tools came out with, hey, we're going to extract, say, MedPick from the calls and then put it in your field, but then the rep still had to go like press a button and update it. It's like they're not going to do that. So taking it to full automation, I mean, we should all be there now. But are you seeing that companies are kind of behind and still manually filling in fields and doing things that are kind of the old way?
Yeah, but I'll also just say there is a hope and thought out there that no one's ever going to need to update information in their CRM, right? So, sales methodology input, like you noted, tends to be a very important for execs and sales managers, and a total pain for the team. And in theory, if you had actual all the interaction information about a deal, from call recordings, emails, freehand notes, what have you, it could theoretically update that information. Can those specific data points? Can that happen today? And can you do that today? Absolutely. I think where companies are realizing that it's going to take work to get live is deciding, hey, which actions am I okay? What autonomy do I want to give to the AI that I configure? Meaning, which fields and data points can it update in the system, and which can it do it automatically, and where does it need approval? So, for instance, I'll take like medic sales methodology, because this comes up frequently, of like, no one likes inputting this, and it should be obvious from the conversation and independently judged from AI. It tends to be a conversation there, and in other data points on the opportunity. What do you want AI to synthesize and automatically update, versus what do you want it to suggest updates to for human approval, which creates then complex logic that we need to decide, and where that approval is sought from, from a Slack alert, etc. And then the third bucket is, where do you want AI not to judge, because you still want your team to actually put in information, make judgments, and you tell people like, hey, it can do a lot. You're still going to be logging into your CRM in a few years for multiple reasons, which we can get into. So it's really and really about enabling the team to do their most human activities, which is relationship building and really high level judgments on where things stand.
I like what you said about synthesize. So I think looking at those data points in a silo is really a mistake. That idea of synthesizing it, like you said, across not just the one call, multiple calls, across what's happening in the deal, how many times has the stage slipped, how many emails, are people responding to emails and things like that. I think that's a really critical point and point of, the goal for RevOps teams really should be going in that direction. And I think making that shift is more complex, right? Because not everything is built out of the box that way. And I think that's where you come in a little bit, is helping teams to really synthesize all of this information and bring all those tools together. So where do you see, you have companies out there, a lot of people are experimenting, right? They're getting initiatives from the company and, implement, certain AI needs to be done and it's going on board slides everywhere. Um, how do you really see that playing out? And, where are companies with AI? Are they experimenting? Are they still doing things in spreadsheet? Where do you think that really needs to live to, bring real leverage into the operations of the organization?
Yeah. I mean, there's a range of sophistication out there, but I'd still say, as we sit here on May 1st, 2026, that most companies don't have AI connected to their go-to-market systems really in any meaningful capacity. They're using it to draft emails that are manually drafted from prompts that the team is just maybe copying and pasting an email or giving a little bit of context. So I just want to take a step back and also maybe just like that. I think that's pretty revealing of like where things are. But we're all using in our day-to-day AI in like meaningful ways. Like everyone understands now the AI chat interface.
Right.
You put data in, whatever you want, files, text, images, etc. You put instructions, aka a prompt, and you get data and answer back to you in whatever format you ask for. That's all that creating AI workflows takes too, is deciding what data you want to put in, which I don't want to oversimplify, and what data you want to get back, and then where you want to put that. I think what tends to happen is that when people try to apply this to business, they realize it takes a lot of like decision making, and they ultimately I'm systems connecting systems, and they just freeze, and it suddenly feels like an IT project. But I think part of what we try to instill is like that, making sure that they understand the mental model is the same. We have a lot of like companies that'll say, "Oh, I'd love to score leads in a better way using knowledge, we'll extract this information using knowledge about the specific role, how long this person has been there." And that's impacted also by the size of the company. A vice president at a 5-person company is different than a 5,000-person company. And
Hmm.
ultimately, we help over conversations make them realize, hey, if you have the information and have a good instructions, you can feed that into AI and get a better score that isn't just like formulaic in the past. So ultimately, and I know I took your question in a roundabout like direction here. It's like, listen, companies are doing overall on average, at least the ones that are coming to us, they're not doing enough right now. They know that, but then they'll freeze in their tracks because they'll overcomplicate what AI is. We ultimately simplify with companies, and we have, whenever we really start engagements, throw in front of them the 7 most common AI use cases for sales and customer success teams, help them distill what they're doing today, what they're not doing today, and one by one attacking each one, again, based on like what's most valuable for each specific company.
I like that. I mean, breaking it down, making it simple makes sense. So, what are the 7?
What are the
Am
7?
I
So in the efficiency and automation category, it's chat to
Uh-huh.
CRM. You should be able to talk
Mhm.
to from Slack, Claude, and update your CRM. Number 2 is AI powered outreach. And worth saying for all of these, there's a beginner, intermediate, and advanced kind of implementations. It's not just one thing we do. AI powered outreach can be it would start off on the beginner side of taking context from your CRM and drafting a next email, all the way to truly automated AI BDRs that find prospects, reach out on a multi-step, multi-platform outreach, handle replies. Number 3 is taking totally unstructured call and meeting data to actually updating your CRM data points. And then on the insight front, it's 1, company intelligence and meeting prep, 2, lead scoring, 3, contact and buyer signals, and then 4, deal signals. So I'm not sure I would have gotten that off the top of my head, but I had already had that pulled up on my screen, Sandy, since we talk about it so much. So
I love
thanks
it.
for keeping me honest there.
You're ready to go. Yeah.
And we could dive
into
any of those as you want here. Happy to kind of talk about what we've actually built.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, lead scoring is a great example because, systems, whether it's HubSpot, Pardot, whatever folks are using for that. I think there's traditional lead scoring models, and those have been great until now, when we can really truly identify intent and the levels of interest potential leads have, and which ones are going to be ripe versus not ripe. So I love that that focus is there on the marketing ops side of things, that you're not forgetting the poor marketing people as you're working through your clients.
For sure.
So when you say, I've heard you say this, AI-native CRM, AI-native GTM systems, like, what does that really mean in the real world for, reps, RevOps, managers? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, what does that typically look like in practice? On the rep side, it's less manual logging, better next step prompts. And as I'm realizing I'm getting into this, if I could describe one adjective for what like an AI native system is, it's proactive. That's the number one problem with CRM, is that it's just stale data. So a system for
Stephen Covey will love you. Stephen Covey will love you. I think he pretty much term the proactive term, right?
Yeah, and I think we're well positioned here because as a firm, we have we've always had these 4 what we call Skydog skills, and these really categories that we assess ourselves internally for how we're all doing. And the foundational skill we have is unreasonable proactivity. That word unreasonable taken from the book Unreasonable Hospitality. And that proactive part is how our team operates, and is now how we need to build AI. So what I mean there is, chat-to-CRM. Let's take that. I always say to companies, it's the best place to start, because your team's already using Claude, already using Slack, Teams, ChatGPT, whatever it is. They should be able to talk in natural language and update their CRM. And they typically say, oh my God, that would be amazing. That would solve everything. And I can take the other side. First, I say, yes, you need it, table stakes, but also that doesn't solve everything. Why doesn't it solve everything? Because going back to my friend Dave's comment about you hate your CRM because that's where you do work. You're going to hate your AI platform because that's where you need to enter data, even if it's just in natural language. Yeah. So the solution isn't really connecting that and still saying, hey, human, you need to input it. It's AI being proactive. So AI saying, hey, I saw this call happen. I went through the transcript, and you've given me authority to make these 3 field updates. I've done that. These other 4 field updates, you want my approval. And also, should I add this task? That's proactive AI. So that's really what a truly built AI native CRM go-to-market system looks like. Companies need to take steps there. I talked about it from the rep side. On the manager side, it's actual analytical, proactive coaching of an insights rather than just vibe-based pipeline reviews. And for the RevOps teams themselves, I mean, this is a total game changer. I tell company leaders, is your RevOps team building 5 times faster than they were 6 months ago, or building 5 times more? And I say 5 times maybe as a little bit of hyperbole, but it should be a big step function up. It should be noticeable. And if it's not noticeable, you really need to take a look in the mirror and say, hey, is the right team driving our the most important system for one of the most important systems for the company right now.
Yeah, even just reporting alone is like a game changer for RevOps and board decks. Just even simple stuff like that is a game changer, and it can almost on its own 5x your capacity for sure. But I like what you said about being proactive, and the Teams and Slack example was a great one because they still have to do the thing, but you are giving them the information where they're living, right? They're not living in their CRM, like the old RevOps utopia was, your Salesforce is your launch pad. Now they're living in Slack and they're living in Teams, and that's where we want to deliver the information. I think the challenge is now that's noisy. So it kind of goes back to what you said in the beginning. Like, it's really, not a CRM problem or an updating problem. It really comes down to that proactive behavior. So, but I like that. I like your approach in breaking it down to thinking in terms of where they are and how can you be proactive with that information.
Yeah, and if I could take something else from there, Sandy, is yeah, you want to be where people are. But it's funny, some new products that are getting released are actually creating just another new tab to look at. The promise of AI wasn't even that we would be sitting in this chatbot, is that we could be interfacing less almost with digital platforms and touching grass in the real world, and in our business lives, maybe engaging with prospects and customers more. So that is really a key to a lot of how we approach these problems is, hey, if we need a third-party solution, making sure that it's just not another tab to switch to, another platform to log
Right.
into. And we have a lot of pre-made functionality we've built. You mentioned Snapbrick. That's our native connector between Salesforce and any AI platform, Claude, ChatGPT that you want with really, if you were to implement this, you wouldn't know, hey, we've implemented another tool. Similarly, on chat-to-CRM, the Salesforce and Teams integrations, Slack and Teams integrations with Salesforce are pretty insufficient. So we've created a more customizable integration. We call it Rover. It's as a wing
Okay.
to Skydog that's included for free for all of our clients, and
I like that.
can go into
Oh,
what makes it more customizable and better. But the big part is we want you not to have to log into something else and to be able to take more actions within your chat interface, and maybe in the future not need to chat at all.
so tell me though, okay, if you think the Slack to Salesforce is bad, it's like, what do you think about Teams? So, so you're solving that problem with Teams in Salesforce?
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, a conversation for a different day, and how Microsoft and Salesforce, their openness or lack thereof to play well with each other. But yeah, for obviously Salesforce owns Slack. For those folks who have used the native connector Slack bot, they know it is definitely not eliminating their need entirely to log into their CRM. And I'm not trying to say we're trying to remove that entirely, but there's more action that you can take. So for instance, being able to easily configure a weekly message to each member of your sales team that says, here's your open pipeline, here's your open tasks. Any of these worth updating here? And you could just record a quick voice note via Whisperflow and have it update there. Also for each object within your system, what do you want to give access to your team to view, edit, and create in Slack, and giving more flexibility? Because I do think, like, when we talk chat to CRM, one of the big hesitancies we'll hear from tends to be RevOps leaders, not sales leaders, which I push back to the RevOps leaders big time, is, oh, I'm nervous about my team having carte blanche access to the system via chat. And so, well, you give them this access via the CRM interface. The answer there is yes, but we configured it in a way that they can't even see everything that they can do. I think that's a losing mentality personally.
Yeah.
But we've given flexibility so that they can decide what they have access to. When you update an opportunity, what fields does Rover then ask you to complete in order to enter it in full, which is one of the downsides without that of chat-to-CRM as you don't see the fields on the screen, therefore you don't know what to update, and you can actually have worse data input because of that. So we built a lot to solve for that. And yeah, that's probably worth its own half-hour conversation to walk through.
Yeah, yeah, especially if because I know Teams is a challenge, especially in the financial services world, because you're mostly working in Microsoft, and most of those shops are Salesforce shops as well. So I'd imagine you're a busy guy, Corey, for
Yeah,
sure.
you nailed it. Like, our tech clients are mainly on, the more the more techie, like modern. I don't want to say modern, but yeah, I'll use that, platforms. They're on the Google Suite, they're on Slack already, etc.
Yeah,
Whereas we work with a lot
yeah.
of private capital firms that are in Teams, and I'll also say with those firms, there's also the added hurdle that they don't use call recording typically, because of just norms within the industry, and also like
Hmm.
regulatory concerns as well. So that lack of 100% data capture,
Hmm.
which no company really has, but they, if you're not recording calls, which is a big piece that's missing. If you don't have 100% data capture, then there's only so much information for AI to act on. So for those firms, those companies, it tends to be more of a conversation of how do we make it just easier for the team to actually transmit their updates with natural language to their CRM.
Yeah, we definitely have a few clients that we don't record because it's their policy, but we find most banks and credit unions are okay with recording, but we do keep it secure, and some of them require CAPTCHA and things like that. But
I guess things
so
are change. I guess things are changing a little bit.
yeah, I
People are
mean,
realizing, yeah,
it depends on the financial institution, I think,
yeah.
but yeah, it's definitely going to be the more conservative group that you're going to be working with. So, what do you see out there in terms of mistakes that companies are making when they try to layer in AI on top of what they're already doing, their existing motion?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny with the mistakes trying to implement. I'll at least give those companies credit that they're trying to do something.
Hmm.
Um, uh, because I think the mistakes of inaction are much bigger. You need to go out, you need to experiment, you need to fail. Although one of the big themes and trends we're talking about is the experimental phase of AI is over. Like the
Hmm.
models are enterprise ready with their outputs. There, if you give good instructions to the leading models, give decent data, it's going to give you a good output back. So like the experimental phase is over, and I will say companies that are actively trying. Maybe it's I'm going to hit a lot of themes that I've talked about already. It's creating another platform to log into, right? Um, and then maybe it's also a little bit of creating hesitation of how much they want AI to do. It's a big theme of like, and why firms like ours will probably be more important is great. Your call notes can update everything in your CRM if you want. No company wants that right now. Have not found the
Right,
one.
right.
But ultimately, what that and I understand that, and I would never advocate for that. It's not what we do, because when I feed my emails and call recordings in, it judges what deal stage and amount differently than I would. And I think then that leads to companies saying, I don't want it to take any action. And then they're back where they started, which is just, hey, we're using this to draft emails for our team, right? So experimenting little by little, and I'm not the biggest fan of AI BDRs, especially on cold outbound, because I think that's all, cold outreach was already oversaturated before you could
Hmm.
truly have this outreach at scale and fake customization of emails. Like, I do not care that where I went to college, and
Right.
talking about a local ice cream shop, like that didn't take in actual knowledge, and when it's fake, whatever. I
Yeah.
digress. I digress in that way, but
But
um, y-
the LinkedIn messages are the best. I got one the other day, and this guy was like, "Yeah, I saw you at the conference in Austin last week." I'm like, "Dude, I was not at the conference in Austin last week. I was there the last year." the conference happened in Austin, but I was not there last week. It was really funny, and then he tried to play it off.
No better way to really get a relationship off on a bad start.
He tried to play it off like it wasn't an automated message. I was like, your automated message messed up or something like that. He tried to play it off like it wasn't, but I was like, yeah, no.
So even then, we're realizing, where we'd be hesitant to unleash a true AI agent, which I agree with in many cases, right? But my point is, everyone has those stories, and then that can lead to not trusting it to do anything, right? Where why are you really scared to have like the first inbound message be replied to? And taking those like steps there. So ultimately, recapping my answer there, it's you got to give credit to the ones that are attempting to do so to begin with.
Yep.
But then ultimately backing off of like what actions it can take, because they're just ultimately giving tools to their team where the team needs to do more work, and that's again not the promise that was made
Right.
with new technology.
Right. Well, and you brought up the inbound. Something that's come up on my team is we've done a lot of work on ICP, right? So we know who our ICP is. We've got Clay running, Claude, like we're identifying what's coming in. So the real question is, if it's not your ICP, do you drop them in an automated message? Like it feels like someone should still really call them if they want to talk to you, but at the same time, those are business decisions. So like you start to really need to make these have these human in the loop conversations, right, where there is a human somewhere that needs to make that decision and determine whether or not you need to send the personalized outreach, or it does need to go into some automated workflow.
And to take a nugget from there too, you're talking about potential leads that might not be a great fit, that your team probably is not going to address themselves. The place to give some action to is where your team's not acting right now. These unvisited leads, these old opportunities that need to be resurfaced, new hires at these companies that can be surfaced via tools like Clay, and have that initial like outreach started. So there's probably more action that you can be taking, whether it's actual outreach, actual visibility to your team on news on these key accounts. But people are either just nervous or don't know how to build it, because like I said, they're kind of when AI for business gets overcomplicated, all it is just what's the trigger that you want it to start on? What data are you giving access to, and what actions do you want it to take? It's really, not to overly simplify, but it's
Right.
as simple as that. Yeah.
Well, and then from there, what action does the human take once you do all of that? So signals is a great example, like a press release or a new job change or a new COO appointment for one of your key ICP accounts that's assigned to you in one of your top tier. So we just built that out for our team. We just rolled it out, and they need to take it. Someone still needs to take action. So having also the full enablement with these things, I think, is important. As teams are rolling it out, RevOps teams can put really cool stuff in place. Like we can build things now, which is really cool, and leverage tools like Clay, leverage tools like Claude. But if you're surfacing too much, it's overwhelming, right? So I think you have to be strategic, but you also have to have that enablement plan to continue to support it. And if they have to take an action themselves, if there's not an agent handling it, what is the human doing? What's the follow up process? Are you providing them templates? What context are you giving them? What's the expectation they should respond within once that hits their Teams channel or their inbox, wherever it's going? So I think there's that. You can build it all day long, but where have you seen? You do work with companies. Where have you seen companies successful, like continuing the adoption of things that you've built and work with them on?
Yeah, and then to take something that you said there, as like, if I kept thinking of the word proactive, I was like, all right, How can you, when they need to take action, how do you enable them with information here? Listen, for again, what of those 7, I like to attack one to start for each company. But we're talking about different industries, different company targets. So like your typical company selling to SMB, what do they care about? It's speed and action. What does your enterprise level company care about? It's true intelligence and signals about what's going on. They really deeply need to know their prospects and customers. So I'll just take that as, your typical enterprise seller and team's need is that company intelligence and meeting prep. So I can ask any company right now that sells into the enterprise, pull up your most important 10 accounts that you want to sell to. Okay. Pull that up in Salesforce or whatever system you use. Now, could you describe your ideal persona well at these companies? Of course, yes. All right. Are all of those people in your CRM? And the answer is, of course not. That's just table stakes. It's a sales system. So how to actively and proactively make sure, and this we would typically do via an integration with a platform like Clay, where you can say, hey, for these list of accounts, look for new hiring signals. You could, again, have AI enriched scoring of those people. So, for companies, what we've done is take those companies, look for the new hires that broadly fit these categories, director level and up. Then when each one comes through, based on their title and the company, we're going to run it through a 1 to 4 score. If it's a 3 or 4, we'll enrich that contact in Clay with email and phone and add it in to your CRM. Send an alert to the owner of an account saying, hey, this person was added. Do you want to draft an email to them? Do you want to reject that because it wasn't a good fit, which the team can then train off of? So that company intelligence, that will then spill into things like late news. So hiring trends, product releases, making that not something that you need to find because you're just, surfing the web and clicking onto the website, but something that's proactively running weekly, monthly, assessing that and sending key alerts to you so that you can start conversations early. So in addition to that, hopping into meetings with those key accounts, making sure that your team is prepped with the latest external information that I just talked about, but also the historical context of what's in your CRM. And again, saying the simplicity of AI, if you gave it all your account information and all the underlying info, activities, opportunities, and let it look on their website and all the news sources, you could have an amazing half-page tear sheet that would make you look really good coming into a meeting. So that company intelligence, think of 3-4 ideas just there off the top of my head. Any enterprise company needs to be doing today because just going to make you look good and it's going to remove hassle for the team.
Yeah, and the old way is give them all Zoom info and they go find their contacts and click add, right? So, it's funny you're diving into this. So because I literally just rolled out something exactly like this, and we built the signals also into Salesforce so we can report on it. So it delivers it in Teams, and then also in Salesforce there's a little signals thing. And I started thinking about it because, marketing's always tracking MQLs and things like that. But I'm like, maybe we should create an RQL, RevOps qualified lead. But seriously, though, this is, I think, where RevOps teams can really deliver value is how can we put qualified, correct ICP, persona fit, leveraging Clay, leveraging all of the tools, Zoom info, that entire workflow. You can plug pretty much anything into Clay and go find information. So I think that's really powerful. It's great that you're working with companies on that because I'm definitely seeing that being a huge value added. It's something people can grasp and take action on. It's repeatable, and it gives RevOps that control of the data integrity that we love so much, right? Rather than leaving people on their own to adding contacts and forgetting to put in titles and not punching in their LinkedIn profile and things like that.
Yeah. It sounds like you all are ahead, but and just to confirm with you overall, because I'm notoriously not a tool geek. Like, yes, we need to
Mm-hmm.
know what's on the cutting edge of these platforms. That's how we build systems. But I find the conversations about just what companies are doing and building and selling
Mm-hmm.
more interesting. But I am curious, what's that built on? Is it as simple as signals to Clay and that's it, or any other tidbits you can add there, Sandy?
Yeah, so we've got the Zoom Info API key plugged into it. Clay is doing some research. We've also plugged Claude in to write the email, like so to write the email brief in Clay, so it delivers it to the teams through the Claude being plugged in. And then just typical, what could we first started with what potential signals would make sense for us that we can find in Clay. So we started with like what could we find in Clay? And we found the three that were most relevant was the new job posting for specific titles that our persona fit. We have a list of our personas and titles. So we look for those if they're part of our tier 1 and tier 2 ICP. And then we look for, so if a job posting for those titles or a new hire for those titles for our tier 1, tier 2 ICP. And then also like press releases, newswire, COO appointments, things like that. So that is built in. We rolled it out 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to be doing a follow up with the team, and I'm really interested to build a little bit of reporting on it to see like, okay, are we going to be, creating some opportunities from these, and are they taking action on it? So that's our next step. So we're going to get feedback from the team, but it's exciting because I'm seeing them go into the Teams chat. The problem with Teams is the way the Clay integration works. It doesn't notify the person, so you have to like set up notifications for the channel. So there's some nuances there. Teams isn't my favorite in terms of the way Clay and Teams works, and Salesforce and Teams works for that matter. But
Yeah,
which is why we also we also put it in Salesforce for that reason, so nobody would miss them. Like it's it's in Salesforce as well. So if they pull up the account, you see the signal in Salesforce, and then you also get the notification in Teams. So
super interesting. Love that. And yeah, curious like the value the team gets, and yeah, just hitting on like a bunch of themes like proactively finding signals, proactively equipping your team with like the next best email. Super interesting to hear about.
Yep. So when you think about pipeline, discipline, deal inspection, CRM hygiene, what's actually realistic today for go-to-market teams?
Yeah. What's realistic today is what has always been realistic is your team can clean it up, but now do it better. I mean, there's what I'm saying there is like, hey, if your team, and I'm saying this as a little bit of a skeptic that AI is going to be the cure all, because at the end of the day, you need a leader who is going to enforce standards.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I no longer need to click into this deal and click a million things, but yes, now you need to talk to your CRM or just type it in via natural language. Unless companies are really getting to the place where call recordings and emails are auto creating and auto updating deals, like it's still reliant like on human activity. And then there's going to be the added point of how about the people that don't turn on their call recorder and don't log their emails, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So like a lot's
you just tie that to the comp plan. That's all you do.
Yeah. my point is like a lot's possible, but I don't care. I'm almost like not interested in a weird way by it, because it's not going to automatically solve these lazy activity. The person that on your team that had the best data entry to turn it positively, they're going to have even better data entry now, right? It's not going to be solved, I think, in full until listening to I was listening to a Sam Altman interview, and for whatever you think of him, he's obviously has been just absolutely monumental and just a true visionary in how AI is evolving. And something he said was, I don't think people realize how powerful and helpful AI is going to be when it has basically access to a lot more in your life, all the data about you, your conversations that are happening offline. I know this is scary, but I take that to say of like, it's only, it's the only world where you don't need pipeline discipline and don't need to rely on humans for hygiene of your CRM is when it's just doing everything itself, but that relies on access to everything, which I don't want, people don't
Yeah.
want. So
No.
there's a lot it can do, but it again is not something that gets me super excited to talk about, because I don't think we're going to be chatting in a couple of years and saying, wow, it figured out a CRM hygiene. The companies that have pretty good hygiene today, 5 years ago, also do today. It's more of a cultural issue than a tech issue, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. You made me think of something around like AI everywhere. I keep getting these ads for this note taker ring. It like looks like the Aura ring, but it is actually a recorder, and they're advertising it for like people going to conferences and business meetings and things like that, that you're basically walking around, you're always recording everything. And so that's there. I mean, that's out there, that's being marketed right now. It's not something I would personally arm my AEs with to go to a conference. I feel like there's some level of liability there, and recording laws and two-party consent and stuff like that. But it's out there. I mean, I think um, we're just beginning there when it comes to AI being everywhere. And your point about all that. So one thing,
and maybe I could just, if I could add one thing to that, Sandy.
Yeah,
I'm not saying I advocate for that at all.
I know.
At all.
Yeah, I got you.
But what I am saying is the only way to eliminate human input is to capture all pieces of information. If you're talking about a deal with a colleague that's, not with their, so that you would never turn on a call recorder.
No.
Historically, it's not going to have that conversation to input it, and I mean, for the folks that live in New York, like we, there's the big uproar about the product. I think it's called Friend, that was advertising all over the subways, and all their ads were just vandalized because people clearly don't want that. And that's cool, because I don't want that either. But my point being is, in a sales, you don't even want that in your corporate world, life.
No. HR will have a heart attack.
So what we're saying is, okay, this is still reliant on human input, and how do you make it easier? But it's just not the end all be all. And I just, it's funny, I tell companies where to start. Start with chat-to-CRM. It's not really that valuable for your business, though. It does get your team excited and lets your team know, hey, I'm going to make this a little bit easier for you, but I'm not going to make it zero work for you for data entry.
Right. Yeah, you still have to get that intelligence, that information, the insights from the team in a timely manner, of course. So I want to move on to our rapid fire questions. So I've got some rapid fire questions I've been asking all my guests. I went to AI and asked what go-to-market and RevOps teams are just asking and wanting to know about AI right now. So I like asking my guests. So are you ready for that?
Let's do it.
All right. So are GTM teams using AI to drive revenue or just create more activity?
Probably now just create more activity, like faster emails, better looking decks. Some, but not all, are turning that into more revenue.
Okay. I like it. Okay. You just made me think of a term. I'm sure other people have come up with this term, cloudify. So all the PowerPoints are starting to look the same, but
yeah.
Anyway, you got to make the templates.
AI slop. I call it out all the time.
So, okay. What should RevOps automate first?
Yeah. Funny. I didn't know that was coming. So just same thing I just said, data entry to CRM. Again, it's not that business that impactful to the business itself, I'll be honest, besides creating efficiency, but it is a crowd pleaser, and will get your team excited, let them know you're building for them, and open people's eyes to what's possible.
Is the CRM still the source of truth?
If you want it to be. I'll let each company decide that. I'm not going to convince you to make it your source of truth if you don't want it to be. For the folks that will say, we'll just put everything in Snowflake, they truly don't know what they're talking about for creating a platform for revenue teams, but it's for each company to decide.
I like that answer. What's the bigger risk, moving too fast with AI or waiting too long to operationalize it?
Yeah, I'm not even just saying this like as a service provider for companies. Just generally, it would be crazy for me to talk about company building and say that moving too fast is a risk. No one has ever said that in the history of company building. And if you are, you just shouldn't be running a company. So it's definitely waiting too long. I mean, what's the risk? You email someone you shouldn't have, you overbuild something. It's all reversible. Inaction's what kills companies. So yeah.
Great advice. Should RevOps own GTM AI strategy, or is that now everyone's job?
I would love everyone's input. RevOps should own it if the people that are the RevOps team are capable of owning it and strategizing and executing it. I'm very critical of our space. RevOps folks are often people that just didn't want to sell anymore. But it is a job that takes, to do it well, incredible business knowledge, technical knowledge, and intellect and proactivity. So if your RevOps team, you wouldn't feel comfortable with them actually owning that AI strategy, it's a pretty big red flag that you should probably look in the mirror and reassess.
Good advice. Good advice. Salesforce Headless 360 announcement. Go.
Nothing new. Salesforce has always been headless. It very ahead of the curve compared to other CRMs with having an open API, and you could build it that way if you want to. You could theoretically years ago have updated your Salesforce via Slack, not via natural language, and now you can update Salesforce via MCP via the command line interface with Claude Code. So it's always been headless. Just now, headless is more powerful because of the ability to use natural language to update those underlying workflows and the data in there. So nothing new, just an FYI and reminder.
Very, very good point. Well, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. Before we close out, what advice do you have for RevOps and enablement folks who are listening?
Don't get too technical. What I mean there, being a technical expert is incredibly important, but it is not the only thing. So you need to understand businesses from the highest level to be able to proactively propose solutions, speak to executives. That is 10 times more valuable than being just a technical expert and waiting for direction. That's always been the case. It's now even more the case in the age of AI where anyone could build. It's the ideas and ability to execute and enable and actually get your team to adopt solutions that matters more. Internally, we've always had this comparison of a chef and a cook. A cook is taking directions to make a meal. A chef is the one ideating. They don't have a playbook. We need to be operating as chefs. So, historically learning about Salesforce, everyone would always say, oh, I know XYZ about flow, but they couldn't look at a company's website and predict what they might need. So understanding businesses is more important than understanding the technical. Was always important, now more important than ever. And if I could put that into a few words, it's think like a CEO.
Think like a CEO. I think that's great. Well, Corey, this has been awesome. How do people get in contact with you?
Well, first off, you could just you find me on LinkedIn and shoot me a name there. I think I'm the one and only Corey Schwitz. So if you spell it right, you will find me. And you could also reach out and find Skydog's website, Skydog, skydog.ai. Looking forward to being in touch. We're always looking to find interesting companies to work with and interesting people to join our journey here. So looking forward to hearing from folks.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Corey. I'll make sure to include all of your information in the show notes. And thank you, everybody, for listening. This has been another episode of AI-powered RevOps. Peace out.
Thanks, Andy.